Now your host, Zora Catone.
And Snow White's dearest wish came true. Her prince rode off with her to his castle in the clouds, amidst the cheers and good wishes of the dwarfs and forest creatures. And they all lived happily ever after. The end. You know, it's not every day that a film turns 80 years old, especially when you consider that that film is one of those that helped revolutionize the way that Hollywood made its pictures. Today is the 80th anniversary of Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. Walt Disney often said that it was all started by a mouse, and as true as that may be, to me, personally, it was his dream to tell a certain princess's story that really got the company off the ground. After all, not only is she the fairest one of all, but she is often credited as the one who started it all. And rightfully so. Anyone who knows me knows that she's my favorite princess of all time. I hear a lot of negative things about Snow White these days, annoyingly so, but there's truly something to be said for those who really miss out on the lessons that the story tells us. We learn that youth and innocence is something that should truly be cherished. That vanity and spite can lead us to do horrible things if we let that kind of hatred consume us. That making a wish here and there is encouraged. That sometimes it's okay to be afraid, but we can always count on those we care about and those who love us to lead us out of the dark. That hard work doesn't have to be a chore, especially if you find a way to make it fun. Just whistle while you work, or sing while you work. Whatever works for you. That a little act of kindness goes a long way. Not to mention a few pointers on personal hygiene. That it's always important to just kick back and have fun once in a while. That making and cherishing new friends is an important part of life, but we should also be wary of strangers. And finally, that the possibility of finding hope and true love is a very important thing indeed. And I'm sure I'm not the only one who has fond memories of this dear favorite. Even before I saw the film itself, this story played a very integral role in shaping my childhood. We're all read bedtime stories, and like most of us, our introduction to these fairy tales was through the Disney version. And even as a child, I remember that feeling of pure joy hearing it for the first time, and knowing that Snow White's wish had come true. The Blue Fairy once said that once a story is read, it becomes alive in the imagination of the person who heard that story. And that's exactly what happened for me. And when I saw the film for the first time, it was exactly like how I imagined it, and so much more. Especially when you consider the fact that I had known the songs long before I had actually seen the film itself. We had these cassettes with all the songs on it, see, and some of my fondest childhood memories include me marching all over the house, or up and down the stairs, or basically anywhere, really, singing hi-ho at the top of my lungs, or whistling while I was working and doing chores. But most of all, I remember if I wasn't able to fall asleep, my mother would put on Someday My Prince Will Come, and the beautiful voice of Adriana Caselotti would lull me off to dreamland in no time flat. As a child, that was a highlight. And to this day, I still consider her voice to be one of the most beautiful that I've ever heard. But it really does my heart good to know that there are other people out there, and not just hardcore Disney fans like myself, but other folks who have had this story touch their lives just as it's touched mine. Now, of course, historically, we all know that the original fairy tale of Snow White is one that spans back centuries. But when you truly look at the amount of significance and influence it has in today's modern-day culture, it really is something special to me that this film that's changed millions of lives and revolutionized the way that we tell stories is almost 2 decades away of being a century old itself is really something special to me. Just to see how far we've come since then, and how many childhoods have been shaped by this one story alone. I know, speaking from personal experience, that if it weren't for this film and Disney in general, I wouldn't be so obsessed with storytelling as I am today. And we owe it all to this man right here. Without the creative genius and vision that Walt Disney had, I truly believe that storytelling would not be the same without his dream. No one thought that he could make this. No one thought that anyone would want to see it. But, thankfully, he pushed through, he kept moving forward, and he proved them all wrong. Thank you, Walt, for giving this to us and for bringing a little bit of magic into our lives. For a world without stories is a land without magic, and a land without magic is not a land that I want to be living in. But even then, I'll never forget when I walked into Disneyland for the very first time and seeing Snow White standing there and all these people so happy to see her, little girls giving her hugs and her singing to them by the wishing well. Well, all gushing aside, it didn't take me seeing that then to know that Hollywood was thinking the exact same thing in 1937. That by telling the story of the little princess through moving pictures, and you had created something truly special. She's still so very important to friends of mine and strangers, to my mother, to even my cat, who loves to curl up and watch the film with me and cuddle my Snow White plush every once in a while. She's her favorite, as she is mine. And even if you're not a fan of the film or Snow White or any of this, I truly hope that you can see why this is still one of the greatest stories ever told. From a charming little princess to her 7 little friends, to the evil queen, to the magic mirror, to the unfortunate huntsman and all the cute little furry woodland creatures, even to the prince, who no one can seem to decide what his name is or isn't. It's not Ferdinand. I'm just going to put it out there right now. Still, here we are 80 years later commemorating this, and I truly hope that today we are reminded that we should never stop following our dreams, that so long as we look for it, the light in the world can be found anywhere. But most importantly, thanks to Walt and the little princess here, we are reminded that we are never too old to be young. So, happy 80th anniversary to the fairest one of all, and thank you to Snow White and the 7 Dwarfs.